From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hangin web show, it's the legend of the Traveling Tardis. Look inside and behind the scenes at some of the most enduring and beloved science fiction worlds. Step inside the doors to a world that is bigger, brighter, and beyond imagination. And now, join your host, Christian Basel, as you become a part of the legend of the Traveling Tardis.
Hello, fellow Whovians, and welcome to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis. If you have not noticed, I am not Christian Basel. This is going to be your host, Melanie Dean. However, I do have a special guest named Christian Basel with us. Hello, Christian.
I feel like I lost a bet or something. Or I may have won a bet. I have no idea. Hello, everybody. Hello, fellow Whovians. Yes, Melanie is going to be artiste. Our artiste Melanie is going to be our host for today because the topic is not my forte. So I'm going to be just sitting there, relaxing, chilling, like a villain.
He gets to have the chilling part where he can do panelists, which means he can kind of go on mute, have something to snack on, something to drink. And I'm going to be doing a little bit more.
Well, now I know what you do when I'm...
sit patiently and our turns like good little panelists. Anyway,
hey.
Our topic for today is going to be a cosplay and crossplay of Doctor Who. So, as an avid cosplayer, as someone who's done a lot of sewing and singing in my time, I got to be the host for this time. So, I'm also being joined with two other amazing panelists. One you may know, her name is Jessica Womack from Swan Cosplay. Hello, Jessica.
Hello again.
And new to the Traveling Tardis is Sarah Utting. You may know her from her Facebook page, Sarah So Geeky. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, everybody. Nice to be here.
Awesome. So, I believe this is the part of our show where we go into to Sage Ia for Who Knew News.
Ta-da! Yeah. So I have some
feeling.
I have some Who Knew news. So Rosa, the episode Rosa, won the Visionary Arts Award. Just recently, on the Doctor Who episode, Rosa was awarded the Visionary Arts Organization Award for the television show of the year. The Visionary Arts Organization and honors were founded by a gentleman named Adrian Grant, who was the creator, actually, of the hit Michael Jackson musical Thriller Live. And he said it's not about awarding for egos or fame. It's about recognizing culture, media, and entertainment that has inspired and created awareness and advocated for social change. So it's like almost perfect that Rosa was chosen.
That is brilliant, because it was an absolutely phenomenal episode that had a lot of very, very well-deserved buzz before it and a lot of accolades now, especially after it. So congratulations.
That it really was awesome. And also congratulations to David Tennant for his David Tennant podcast. If nobody knew, episode 3 is out, featuring Jodie Whittaker. And they had just a lot of fun. They just crack up. There's a little bit of swearing, a little bit of fun. She tells them what it was like, working during Broadchurch, because they worked together on that. But she also mentioned during the podcast that when she first started acting, they had asked her to wax off her mustache. And she said, I have a what? Yes. And she's like, yeah, no, I didn't know I had one. So you can just pencil that in if you want. So,
wait, did they tell her that during Broadchurch or for who?
When she began her acting career. And they also wanted her to fill in a line in her forehead. And she was like, no, because that's part of my expression. That's how you can see what I'm emoting. So there's a whole bunch of fun little tidbits that she had during his podcast. So everybody can catch that on iTunes if you want to hear some more fun little insides on that.
Wow.
Hey, David, I just want him off my blog. I'm not auditioning for Doctor Who. He can just get off the podcasts. We don't want more competition out there than already is.
See, I'm so bad. I'm like, the more the merrier. I have time during work to listen to David and to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis.
There you go.
Come on, more friends in the pool. Everyone in.
Oh, I'm selfish.
Really?
I'm horrible like that.
I've never guessed that.
Well, and my last bit of news isn't actually news. It's so funny. Town and Country put out an article that production has begun on the next season of Doctor Who. And then if you read it, it doesn't really tell you anything new, which I thought was very funny. It mentioned that production started January 21st over in Cardiff, that they revealed that, season 12 is going to start early in 2020. So maybe that's a tiny little bit. We have early 2020 instead of just 2020. And of course, they reiterated that all of the companions were going to be back. However, Chibnall teased a possible big arc for Yaz. When they asked if she was going to return to her job as a police officer, he said, well, that's a really good question. And we'll find out in 2020.
We have to wait a year to find out. Well, you know what? I'm going to be optimistic and hope to see and look forward to seeing what exactly is in store for Yaz, because like I've said in other podcasts for this show, is I want more background of her. So here's hoping to see a little bit more of the copper in her.
I'll see. Then that was good news.
You want more, and
then.
I thought I was jealous. Thought it was selfish over here.
Christian.
Yes.
Oh, good Lord. So anyway, thank you, Sage, for the Who Knew News. Hey, Christian.
Yes,
I believe you have information about a little poll that happened on Facebook.
Yes, we've started putting our polls out. That did not come out the way I wanted. We've started putting polls on the Facebook page of the Legend of the Traveling Tardis, and we have two of them. The first one being that the topic today is about of cosplay. We put out a question: how many of our audience members, or how many of our Facebook friends, cosplay? And anybody want to take a guess at, out of 137 people who voted, what the kind of the ratio was? How many people cosplayed?
I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with a lot. I'm going to say that 100 of those people who, of the 137, they cosplay.
Right. Sarah, how many people do you think cosplay out of those 130 that voted?
I would say probably about 120. I'm going higher than Melanie.
Gotcha. Jessica, where would you go?
62.
Ooh, specific.
You know what? Jessica wins the car. It's 65, less than half.
No
cosplay,
way.
with 70 people who do not cosplay. So our audience out there, at least the people, the 137 who voted, only less than half cosplay, which is interesting. But that was one of our polls there. So it's about half out there. Also, we had another poll out here, and this one got a bit of attention. Out of 421 votes, the question was, what would you say to a Whoopi Goldberg doctor? Out of that ratio, how many would be approving of Whoopi Goldberg as, or at least give her a chance to be a doctor? Melanie?
I'm going to assume that the people voted as Whoopi Goldberg now, and not when possibly she had pitched this years ago. So let's go with 150 people saying that they would like to see her as a doctor. 150
people. Sarah, what would your number be? How many people want to see Whoopi Goldberg as the doctor?
I would say 250.
250, a little higher. Jessica, what would be Whoopi's number?
20.
20.
520.
520.
50. I don't know.
Go along here.
It's a 520. It's a Gallifreyan number. You might have heard of it.
Oh, yes.
Timey-wimey. Well, Jessica is slightly in the ballpark. Only 82 people would be want to see a Whoopi Goldberg doctor. 339 said no way.
Ooh.
Well, because 50 plus 20, I was only 10 off, right?
I gave you that bell curve there.
That's right. That's how Gallifreyan math works. It's always the arithmetic factor on it.
Yeah, it's not linear.
No.
The polls go on for a couple days if you want to participate, and if you want to give your opinions about things. We have a poll every week that comes out on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. So, and you might read your comments. A lot of the comments about Whoopi Goldberg, I could not read. So I'm like, okay.
Did you find that a lot of the comments were based on Whoopi possibly doing it now, as opposed if she had pitched this back when she was just coming off of Star Trek, Next Generation?
Okay, well let me see if I can find some interesting positive. Ruth, I know her too, and I'm going to butcher her name. Kobishki. Interesting idea. I wouldn't mind seeing an ST, a Star Trek Next Generation Doctor Who crossover. Captain Jack flirting with Guinan, amongst other things. Maybe an idea for a Big Finish project. Here's a mixed one that says, look, I love Whoopi as much as any other fan. I love her in Sister Act, amongst other things, but this is just no. She's not right for the role. Besides, they almost always go for someone less known, and it needs to stay that way. Robin Wolf said a doctor should be British. That seems to be a running theme for a lot of people who voted. And 3 comments were blocked because of profanity. So I can like, okay. So there you go.
Well, being British myself, I wouldn't mind having a doctor who wasn't British. That personally, that I don't find that a problem. It's everybody else that just thinks that, you know, Doctor Who should be British because they've always been British.
Did you ever see the video from YouTube where if it was an American Who, they had Burgess Meredith as the first Doctor, Gene Wilder as the 4th Doctor, Jeff Goldblum as the 8th Doctor, my favorite, Christopher Walken as the 6th Doctor. Have you ever seen that run? Somebody came up with a theory of if the Doctor Who's emulated the British into the American, who their American counterparts would be, and I thought that was an interesting thing. I would have watched it.
I think the Gene Wilder one was...
See, I argue that I wouldn't want an American simply because of the acting training. Because actors in America, you either choose one of 2 tracks. You choose stage theater or film theater. Or film, I guess it's not film theater. But in the UK, you have to do both. And it makes you so much more of a well-rounded actor. And there's always this X factor that you see with most of the English performer, or not even English, British performers, that is lacking. Like, as great as some of our actors are, they are missing that one little X factor that you can't put your foot on. And most of it's because the actors from Britain perform on stage before they go to film. And there's so many subtleties and as an actor that they can command that someone who is just trained for film can't even imagine.
But you wouldn't watch a Gene Wilder Doctor Who? I would sit there. I would cosplay him all day if I could cosplay.
I feel like it would miss depth, some of the depth that they have. I don't know.
I can see opinion. On some of them, I think that the parallels were really well. I really thought that when I saw Gene Wilder for the 4th, the first thing I kind of invoked was Willy Wonka, or even a little bit of Blazing Saddles, the parts that could be got across. But I think costume-wise, it would have been an interesting little bit of a take. But some of the other actors, I was kind of in a maybe you're reaching. I believe we have to take a quick little pause so we can have some commercials going along. As Christian likes to say, it's time to pay the bills. When we come back, we'll start talking a little bit more about cosplay and crossplay.
Best-selling and award-winning author of true crime and crime fiction, Yvonne Mason is back with a brand new book, The Pink Canary, a book that delves into the life of a drag queen and a marvelous whodunit. You can find this and all of Yvonne's other works on Amazon.com, or find Yvonne Mason on Facebook and Twitter.
He's gonna kill me.
Buy your copy of Pink Canary now.
Joanne Fisher's The Spanish Doll. Secrets in Italy? Oh yes. Her beauty strikes him like a thunderbolt sent by the goddess Venus. When Fiore is given a peculiar gift, a Spanish doll, she is thrown into a whirlwind of entangled passion, money, secrets, and love. Get swept away today by Hangin with Web Show featured author Joanne Fisher's The Spanish Doll. Available now on Amazon.com.
Now on Amazon.com. War Calls, Love Cries, a Civil War novel by Mark Berry. Isaac Wells is an innocent farm boy living in upstate New York. His dreams are shattered by a treacherous brother and the onset of a devastating civil war. War Calls and Love Cries is a fast-moving historical narrative. It is an emotional roller coaster ride and a riveting must-read book that you will think about and talk about for a long time to come. War Calls, Love Cries is the kind of book you will cherish for a lifetime. On Amazon.com today.
Every year, tens of millions of people flock to Florida for its sunny beaches and world-famous tourist attractions. Most never learn about the strange and unusual locations just off the beaten path. From the UFOs of Gulf Breeze to Robert the Haunted Doll in Key West, learn about the myths, monsters, and legends from the dark side of the Sunshine State with author Mark Muncy and illustrator Carrie Schultz in their books Eerie, Florida and Freaky Florida from the History Press. Find them at eerieflorida.com or wherever books are sold.
Well, welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis. I am your fill-in host, Melanie Dean. I'm here with panelist Christian Basel, who you may know. Sarah from Sarah So Geeky, and Jessica Womack from Swan Cosplay. And we're going to start talking a little bit about cosplay and Doctor Who and what kind of got everybody into it. So, first one, I'm going to it's kind of neat on this little kind of, as the host, I can kind of pick who I get to ask questions to. Christian, you never told me you had so much power.
Is that what you call it? I just before you go on, I wanted to check because you mentioned Blazing Saddles and Gene Wilder, and I just could see Gene Wilder walking up to the bad guys and you go, morons or something like that.
Right? So I can kind of see a lot of those little the Fourth Doctor kind of nuances. And again, I think the cosplay would be amazing. Okay, so that's one add to the list when it comes to inspiration. See if you can kind of do a Willy Wonka Fourth Doctor kind of mashup, since mashups are pretty cool. Anyway, since that's how I just got inspired, I'm going to ask Jessica, what got you inspired into getting into doing cosplay and just doing a lot of River Song? Because I absolutely love your River Song cosplays.
Well, thanks. Well, I didn't have a choice in cosplay.
What?
I honestly didn't. So it happened where I moved down to Florida, and I had never been to a convention. And I moved down here about 5 years ago. I'd never been to one. I was like, yeah, it seems like something I'd be into because I'm a huge nerd. But, like, where I'm from, there's not really anything. I think they started one, 3 years ago. But, of course, I wasn't there. I'm a little bitter. But so I had met a really good friend at where I worked, which was in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And he was just like, oh, yeah, you've been to a convention, right? And I was like, no, it's just, never happened. He was like, well, you're going to MegaCon. I was like, oh, okay.
And he was like, one.
And you're cosplaying. And I was like, what? Excuse me?
Do what?
And he was like, yeah, you don't have a choice.
Did he buy your ticket at least when he went through this?
Oh my gosh. So, and this was probably this happened around this time 5 years ago. It was probably about April 5 years ago. And so it was already too late for me to really do MegaCon for that year. Mm-hmm. So it comes around, and by May the next year, he and I were dating. So he really could make me cosplay. And he was like, yeah, no, you can't do a convention if you're not cosplaying. You miss out on so much if you're not cosplaying. And I'm like, I don't have anything. But luckily, I just happen to have who doesn't own blue jeans, a white button-up, and I also owned a blue jean jacket, and I have curly hair. So
one and one together meant you just needed to get yourself a leather holster.
A leather holster, yep.
And you're Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
Surprise, you're Willy Wonka. Wait, what?
So, yeah, that too. No, so I ended up doing River Song from America, from Day of the Moon. Or Day of the Moon, yeah? What's the one that happens after that, or before that?
The library? Are you not Kill Them, right?
Yeah, no. It's
America, but I can't think of the actual episode title.
Astronaut,
Impossible Astronaut.
That's it.
After that is Day of the Moon.
Day of the Moon.
Yeah. So I ended up doing that for the first time. Had a blast. The best part, though, was when I first came in, 10 minutes into me walking in, I see this guy over in the corner, and he's doing a Captain Jack Harkness. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's a really good, he has the likeness to him and everything, and was dressed, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, did he have the chin?
Oh, he had everything. I was like, what the heck? I thought it was John Barrowman. I was like, he wasn't announced.
Oh, wow.
And my boyfriend at the time was just like, oh, you want to get a picture with him? I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, I just got here. I don't know what conventions are. And he's like, hey, she wants a picture with you, yells over to the guy. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? No, I don't. And he was like, yeah, you do. So I'm thinking, picture. So you stand next to each other and you smile at a camera, because that's what pictures are for people, right?
For people, yes.
But this is Captain Jack Harkness.
And this is cosplay.
And this is cosplay. And we are both having our time vortex manipulators on and everything. So he comes over and he was like, absolutely. He grabs me, pulls me into a very tight hug. His hand is like definitely on my lower back. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I thought he was going to kiss me. And I was like, what are you doing? And my boyfriend is taking pictures, smiling. I was like, how are you okay with this?
Like a Jason Momoa moment.
Oh my gosh. He was like, but he's Captain Jack. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have photo evidence of how close our pelvises were. Like, they were like touching, like, but now I love it. And of course, that was my first 10 minutes into a convention and cosplay, and I was hooked. Well, not because of Captain Jack, but
especially when you're cosplaying and the other person who's cosplaying knows both their characters, and that everyone gets into that character. You know that know that that's exactly what's kind of going on. Yeah.
Just want to remind the audience: the cosplay is not consent.
Yes. Cosplay is not consent. I did not know that at the time, but once again, it's Captain Jack. How can you say no? But yeah, so that's really what got me hooked on that, was just the immersive experience of that. Well, that sounds really bad. The world of cosplay. There we go.
Well, the great thing about cosplay that I think a lot of people, when you first kind of tell people that, you know, that aren't into the con scene and all that kind of fun stuff, and they finally hear about cosplay, there's a lot of people who believe that it's just, you know, like Halloween, where you put on a costume and you're going to walk around. And for a lot of, and for a good amount of people, when I go to cons, I'll see people just, and honestly, they are Halloween costumes, because they're, you know, it's not cosplay in the sense of that person is portraying the character along with the costuming, hence cosplay. And I'm very much one of those people who there's no right or wrong way to cosplay. That if you go with the Halloween costume route, why not? Get in there and have fun. If you're someone who literally goes through and starts armoring everything, and you want to make a Jadoon, I can never say their names. Anyway. And you want to go all out and do the warblitz, the armor, go for it, right on. That's the greatest things I really do like about going to a con and cosplaying and getting into the cosplay community, is really about how everyone gets excited to see everybody's take on a character, or their take on, you know, how they were able to execute something, whether or not that, you know, they're just beginning, or, you know, they go all out and they spend some serious money and crafting everything. It's a really fantastic community. Speaking of this community, Sarah, this is actually how I met you. I remember doing a con, and you had the most amazing Dalek dress, and I believe it was you. Were you wearing the Dalek dress, or were you wearing the TARDIS?
I was wearing the Dalek dress, and my teenage daughter, was wearing the matching TARDIS dress that went with it. So we were a matching pair, and I mean, she enjoyed being the TARDIS, but I think I enjoyed being a Dalek even more, because I had a sink plunger and a egg whisk that I could go and exterminate with, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, was that the first time? Now, that's the first time I ever had met you and seen you cosplay. Was that your first cosplay, or what was your first time that you started cosplaying, and what got you into cosplaying?
Well, the family got me. I'm quite late to sort of like cosplay. My teenagers got into cosplay before I did, and they all went down to MegaCon, obviously, and they went just for one day, and they didn't get dressed up or anything, and they walked around this convention, and they came back and then go, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, there was all these people dressed up, and we've got to do that. So I said, okay then, off you go then. So they did, and they went down to MegaCon for a couple of years without me, and they went and cosplayed, and you know, they had a ball and had a whale of a time, and then they persuaded me that I needed to go. And I'm just like going, but what can I dress up as? And my husband came up with the wonderful idea that I should be Black Canary from Arrow. So
very nice.
Leather corset, leather jacket, blonde wig, and a nightstick, walking around MegaCon, absolutely geeking out at everything, but feeling not myself. I didn't feel 100% comfortable, and I don't like wearing wigs, and it wasn't really something that I would choose to dress up as. You know, it was just something that was easy. It was something that we found that we could get the bits and pieces to make the costume.
Was the rest of the family in something also in that kind of DC universe, or were you kind of like a standalone? I
was sort of like standalone for Arrow. I mean, my son, he was dressed up as Robin from Teen Titans, and I can't remember what the other two were dressed up as actually. Gemma might have been Harley Quinn, but my husband, Mark was Captain Tight Pants.
What? Wait, what?
It's that extra Marvel character nobody talks about.
No, it's from...
Sounds like an origin story. Wait.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it is... You know what? And I can't even remember the...
Wait, is that a cartoon?
No, it was a live-action show. It's the one that Joss Whedon did that got cancelled. And everybody... Yeah.
Oh, I feel like a bad geek. I'm trying to frantically
Serenity.
know.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that one. So
he was Malcolm Reynolds?
Yeah.
And you call him Captain Tight
Hey.
Pants?
I've seen it on... I don't know where I've seen it. I mean, I'm seeing some really, really weird things, but it
I love you.
You know, people that really, really love Mal Reynolds call him Captain Tight Pants.
You should not be able to tell somebody's religion by what they cosplay, okay?
Oh, bless.
So after I sort of like went out as Black Canary, I decided that I needed to find something that was more like me, and I ended up finding a pattern in Joann's, and it was a TARDIS, and I thought I can make that. Never ever having made any clothing at all in my life before, and I did it. And Melanie's seen she's seen the results of it, and then I made a matching Dalek to go with it.
Yeah, it was, absolutely fantastic piece of for the dress and even the corseting for it. Lots of work and detail I could see I could see in that piece, honestly. As somebody who's a fellow seamstress and has done a lot of costuming, I remember seeing it and thinking, oh my goodness, this has French seams on it. This has your normal seam. This is astounding. And everything was extremely clean, and just, I believe you even, did you even serge some of the parts to it? I think it was satin or a satin kind of fabric. I was just amazed. I was just staring at every facet of this dress, and in that only a cosplay kind of way where you just start going, you're deconstructing it in your mind, how the person must have created it, and seeing all the attention to detail. Well, now I see that we are coming up on another commercial break, so we were going to take a quick little break and pay the bills, as Christian likes to say, and we will see you on the other side.
Murder by the Gods from author William G. Collins is available today. Murder by the Gods is a mystery thriller set in the glorious past of ancient Egypt, when the son of the Scorpion King suddenly collapses after receiving a mysterious threat from the god Seth. The prince is convinced it is the gods who are trying to kill his family. Murder by the Gods is filled with adventure and romance in a kingdom that would become known as the Land of the Pharaohs. Murder by the Gods from author William G. Collins is available on Amazon.com today.
Hello, sweeties. I'm Crystal Moore. I play the Doctor in fan series Doctor Who Velocity. You're listening to The Legend of the Traveling Tardis radio show.
From some of today's best-selling, award-winning authors comes 22 page-turning tales, Cursed Lands.
Cursed Lands will lead you through one doomed world after another in a haunting dystopian urban fantasy.
Join the courageous as they battle for survival across worlds where fae, Vampires, angels, witches, and more roam freely.
Cursed Lands is coming soon on Apple Books, Kobo, and Nook.
Pre-order your copy for just 99 cents today.
And welcome back to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis. This is Melanie Dean. I'm here with Christian Basel.
Hello.
Jessica Womack. Hello. Hello, Jessica.
Hi.
And Sarah Utting, as I keep trying to remember how to say. I have it written down to make sure I don't say it improperly. On our last little bit, we were kind of talking about, with cosplay and how our first kind of forays into it. One thing I would like to ask, and this is for anybody, can take this question, where the reins, is when you are deciding a character, at what point do you think you're going to build it? Or what point do you, like in Sarah's case of sewing the entire TARDIS dress, or what point do you think you're just going to kind of buy all those and assemble the pieces, such as the Last Astronaut's River Song? So I know for myself, there was one point when I found one little thing I was inspired by is I did a Jedi costume. So we're going to kind of go off Doctor Who for a moment. And at that time, one of my biggest strengths was crocheting. And this is before I really got into sewing and knowing all my seams and serging and how much fun serging is. And what I did was I had crocheted the Jedi Ayla Secura. And I made her look like a doll. So I did the Liku headdress as a big crocheted piece. I did the tops. I did the leggings. I was just a big old warm fuzzy little doll. And a lot of help came from YouTube, because at one point I wanted to make little gloves for her. And I honestly went onto YouTube and I found somebody who crocheted mittens, and I just sat there and crocheted a pair of mittens and went, okay, this is awesome. It ended up being something where I just really wanted to at first do the Liku as a headdress, and then realized, I can kind of build out this amazing costume. And I took it to San Diego Comic-Con, and it was just a really kind of fun, different piece that caught a lot of people's eyes. And it was just so much fun, especially with kids thinking like you're a big giant doll. So has anyone ever kind of had that same moment where you're not sure whether you want to build something, you're not sure if you want to buy a piece, or even just having a story where you just organically kind of came into another costume?
Nope.
Thank you, Christian. I have a question for you later.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Well, I regret this at this moment.
But Jessica, because I know for you with doing a lot of River Song pieces, doesn't she usually typically wear just All Saints, or can you actually? Can you? And it's usually specific seasons and stuff. Tell me, is it hard to get a good River Song costume together, or even then, if you're trying to find something specific, getting it in your size?
Yes, to all of that. Most of River Song stuff is All Saints. And really expensive, even before it was like 5 years old. So finding those pieces in my size in America is extremely difficult. But there's been a few things that I've decided to, like, I made the library suit from scratch because I'm not about to spend a couple $100,000 on a spacesuit.
Oh, I can't even imagine what they would to begin with that, honestly.
Yeah, and then it's going to be really hot at a convention. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So that one... Oh, goodness. So that one I made from scratch because it's, a spacesuit itself. It's basically a jumpsuit. So that's an easy pattern. I was able to pick my materials and everything.
What about the collar? Because there's a very ornate white, even though from far away it's simple. It's
the bane of my existence.
Complex. Yes. How did you make the collar?
So the big piece that's attached to it. So I actually went back to primary school and brought out my lovely cardboard and duct tape and made how I wanted it to the base form. And I took some paper mache and I paper mache'd the crap out of that thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was actually extremely cheap products and everything, and it all, I form-fitted it to fit me with the cardboard, and I made sure it sat right before I paper-mache'd anything. And I used, like, a balloon, just like you do in school, to make, like, the little dome bit in the back. And
oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, it was all from scratch. And like the first time I wore it out, I just spray painted it and like painted the whole thing the way I liked it. But of course I just used the word. What's that word?
Paper mache.
Paper mache.
Paper mache. Oh my gosh. With paper mache, you see.
I keep forgetting that too.
Oh my gosh. You see the little lines in it, and it drove me insane because I am type A and a perfectionist, and it drove me insane. So after that first convention, I then took melting plastic, and I kind of form-fitted it to it. I also cut out a hole and stuck a light in the center so it would actually shine through. Which was fun, made it three-dimensional. And I put like a PVC in the bit too to also make it more sci-fi. But yeah, and I used that. I probably should have used Worbla, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm planning on updating it soon, but that added a bit more weight to it, a bit more durability to it as well. I mean, there were still some bits where it kind of looked like wax because you can't touch it when it's hot, but that's the only time you can move it is when it's hot. And I do things unsafely. So do as I say, not as I do. Be safe when you are doing stuff.
Well, it's the same thing with working with Worblas. You have to kind of think of, you have a heat gun and you're trying to mold items and whatnot. But the thing is with Worbla, especially if you're specifically getting Worbla, it's expensive. It's not exactly
That's
the
why
cheapest material you can get. So
okay,
if it's something
for us non 101, what is Worbla? I'm making up my own comment. What Worbla is from the name, but what is it?
Think of it. It's actually almost Worbla. It's like it's a hard plastic. It's a building material. It's almost like a hard plastic. You see a lot of cosplayers use Worbla. The first time I had actually even heard about Worbla was from infamous cosplayer Yaya Han. She was doing a lot of Worbla work where you could just see her, cutting it and then using a heat gun to kind of start, molding it and to kind of bend it to what you want. So think of it as a very, very heavy duty plastic where it's very good for armor. It's very good for really, you can get a really nice kind of clean pieces from it that have a nice kind of, not necessarily a nice shine, but when you paint it and kind of finish it, you sand it, you can really make things look very, very sleek with it. But the material itself can be kind of pricey, and it's just like, I would say it's just like any other type of artistic medium where if you want to start working with something like in painting, if you want to start acrylic painting, you don't want to run out and get the level 3 paints from Michaels. You want to start with the stuff over there by the basic stuff, just to kind of get a feel for it. But that being said, if you start with that level 1 stuff, and when you start using the level 2 and start losing the level 3, you'll realize, oh wait, a Holbein or Holbein paint has a different type of viscosity. It's so much nicer, so much easier, but it's more expensive. So same thing kind of is with Worbla. A lot of people nowadays, instead of using Worbla, now this is my turn to not remember a term. The foam, is it EVM that you can use? It's the foam that you see that's in garages, and I say EVA? EVA. Yeah. That you'll see a lot of people building that with that. I did a cosplay with a gun that was from Portal. When you played the game Portal, before you could go buy a Portal gun, of course my silly butt decided to build my own Portal gun about 2 years before they were just insanely cheap and you could just go ahead and get one comparatively. I did use a lot of EVA for the outer shell. I ended up using a lot of plumber's putty and a bunch of other kind of fun stuff. But anywho, Christian, here's your question.
Well, I'm still getting over the Worbla. It just sounds like a disease. This is like, do you want to go out tonight? No, I got the Worbla again. Got snot shooting out of everywhere. I got a question. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Now, I know that you don't cosplay. However, no. I believe that you have judged cosplays, and yes. I know from following the Legend of the Traveling Tardis on Facebook, the Traveling Tardis has known a lot of cosplayers by posing with. It's one of the greatest things for a lot of cosplayers to do is to get their photo with the traveling TARDIS.
In some cases, religiously, yeah. So.
Yes, and that's why I thought it was kind of funny with the poll earlier. How many people said that they don't cosplay? And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I know so. How many photos do we have? Have you made on that on the site on the Facebook site with so many cosplayers?
Well,
I was surprised by that.
Well, you got to think, I'm not trying to boast it, this is the actual number. There's 32,000 people who like the page. So when you have a small core of people who just voted, 100 and something out of 32,000, the audience of the Traveling TARDIS is international. I mean, it's all over the world. It's going to be from people from New Zealand, Australia, UK, US, everywhere. So, I mean, I don't know where the origins is. Yeah, I'm sure if I took a poll in Florida, I'm sure that number would definitely skew up, especially within the within our cosplay family. Yeah, that number will just rise. But yeah, I meant, and this year is going to go on the 7th year, May 19th, that the Traveling TARDIS started traveling, and I actually put out a thing out there where back in 2012, where I would first say. To a cosplayer, this would be me to a cosplayer going, hey, would you mind posing with my TARDIS? Now in 2019, there's cosplayers coming up to me going, okay, damn it, Christian, where's your TARDIS? So,
and that's actually my question is, in the beginning, was there anything is there cosplayers that you have to get to when you see them with the Traveling TARDIS? Is there someone that you're like, oh, I gotta get their photo with? Or do you just kind of, as they bump into you, you're like, oh, can you take a picture? And also, when you see a cosplayer, do you start thinking posing wise, because you have them cosplaying with the TARDIS?
Well, when it first started out, it was to do a natural posing. It was just like, okay, stand here, hold this TARDIS. So if you look back in 2012, 2013, as it progresses, now the question is not, okay, will you pose mine with TARDIS? I usually say in a weird way, and I'm trying to hopefully get the crazy of the cosplayer to go with my crazy, tell me your cosplay story. Tell me what your character would do if you had hold of time and space. And when the question changes to will you pose with a word to tell me your story, or I want you to interact with it, it is a completely change of dynamic, because now there's characters. They make it a characterization. My favorite one so far, just recently, and I have tons, but Neo Cleo. I met over, and it was my first time over at Hallmats, Holiday Materazzi or Matsuri. And she was posing as the queen, and I found her, and there were some Christmas trees in the lobby, and I said, okay, what do you want to do with this? She walked right up to the tree, sonicked the tree, holding the TARDIS, and it's one of my favorite Christmas pictures of all time. Just because it's not necessarily posing, she's telling a story with the TARDIS with her cosplay.
That is awesome. That is so really cool. The other, because one thing that was a question I had always kind of wondered, was when I first followed the Facebook pages, I always did love seeing all of the different cosplayers interacting with the TARDIS, and I had always kind of was it something that you had asked them to do, or was there a little bit more of a direction in there? But that's awesome knowing that you really just gave them the TARDIS and let them be the character, be in the moment, and have fun with it.
Well, I know we got to pay some bills, but just real fast. When it first started, it was just pose. The idea of the TARDIS was to take it places and pictures with people and friends and things that the Doctors never met or interacted with. The TV show. Now, 7 years later, one of my favorite pictures is with Jessica, where it's called The Wedding Proposal of River Song. We had a bunch of Doctors. You remember, right? And you guys got to check it out if you haven't seen it. It's basically Jessica standing there, and all these Doctors going around in a circle proposing to her with their sonics sticking out to her, and she's holding the TARDIS and her book. And that's the kind of stories that I like telling, as opposed to just posing with something.
I love it. I love it. Well, as Christian had implied, it's time for us to go ahead and pay some bills, and we will continue this conversation on the other side of the commercial break.
Channeling the Mothership is an exciting journey into the higher mysteries. Certified psychic medium and clairvoyant Jerry McDaniel's readings, writings, and messages have been received by thousands of people in more than 45 countries. These messages have been obtained by channeling his higher self. How does he do it? Is it a blessing or a curse? And what lay beyond the reach of your five senses? Channeling the Mothership. Explore the mysteries of the spiritual and the metaphysical. Channeling the Mothership by author Jerry McDaniel. Available on Amazon.com today.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics. The Rite of Wands. One boy, one rite. And a world of deadly secrets that could change the course of history forever. It's time for The Rite of Wands by Mackenzie Floor. When a horrible fate reveals itself during the Rite of Wands ceremony, Mirda must find a way to change his destiny. Forbidden from revealing the future, he is granted a wand and magical powers in order to save himself and those he loves. But Mirda is not the only one with secrets. The Rite of Wands by Mackenzie Floor, available on Amazon.com now.
This is Cosplay Michael with the Hangin Club Show. I want to tell you about my friends at Embellish Effects in Orlando, Florida. They've got makeup, costumes, and props for all of your costume needs. And the team at Embellish Effects is helpful and friendly. Embellish Effects is one of my favorite places, and I know it will be yours too. I'll see you there. Or go to embellisheffects.com. And remember, cosplay is for everyone.
You're right. Oh my goodness. As I'm about to talk, I had like a little cough in the back. Anyway, what I was going to say is you're right, Cosplay Michael. Cosplay is for everybody. And the coolest thing about Embellish FX is that Michael was Cosplayer of the Week for his mini Joker. How awesome is that, y'all?
Yeah.
Woo!
Right?
That's awesome.
Right? So, we are back. And we are talking cosplay with Sarah, Jessica, and Christian. And actually had another little... And as we kind of keep talking about different types of cosplays and just the cosplaying community in general, one thing I did want to know is... I know cosplay does a lot... There's a lot of great stories. There is a lot of great things that cosplay has done that, you have these great memories, you meeting different people... And, engaging with people who are just con-goers, and I can just personally attest to how many times I've taken pictures with kids. Oh, my goodness, it's just amazing how little kids' eyes light up. And you're like, I want to take a photo with you. And you just get into that moment, and you just made their day. Now, one thing I do want to ask is, I want to know about the nightmares. I want to know about the nightmare scenarios when you're trying to do a cosplay, and if you're like me, you're not the best person when it comes to time management. Have you?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did I just give myself away?
No, I was like, girl, you know this. See, we're a tribe here. We're a family.
Yep.
And there's times where, remember that Jedi costume I was talking about? I'm not saying that some parts of it I was still crocheting on the airplane on the way to San Diego, but I totally was. Because I was frantic. I was actually trying to finish up the belt, I think, in the car on the way to the convention center. So I want to know, Sarah, have you had any type of nightmare where you're just kind of in a, I need to finish this, or God forbid, on the floor where you're walking and you have a wardrobe malfunction, and you're like, oh God, how do I fix this? Tell me, what's a nightmare, a cosplay nightmare that comes to mind?
I think the only cosplay nightmare I've ever had was I did, going off Doctor Who again, I did a steampunk Mara Jade for the Star Wars celebration.
Oh wow. That's awesome.
And the only thing that I was having an issue with was trying to find a weapon, her blaster. Mm-hmm. And I ended up ordering off Etsy a 3D printed copy of Mara Jade's blaster. And of course it came, and it was the bog standard grey, plastic that everything that's 3D printed is. And I'm like thinking, I mean, it was awesome. It was just like, the details and everything was spot on. It was a great thing. And it cost me like $50 to get this thing. So,
but it was all just flat gray.
It was all just flat gray. So I thought, I'm just going to steampunk this up. Mm-hmm. So I primed it, and I got all of the paints out that I've had for that the kids have had for years and years, and all these metallic paints and everything. And I sat there for maybe 2 days painting and steampunking every single little tiny bit of this blaster. And it looked too clean, so I thought, right, and now I need to antique it. So I've got we've got this medium that we use, and it's like just this brown sludge thing that you just paint over the top of stuff, and then you wipe it off, and it leaves behind things in the nooks and crannies, and it makes everything look old and antique.
Oh, so kind of like a patina.
Yeah, and it's just like, it makes everything look dirty and, old and just great for steampunk type of things. So anyway, after spending 2 days painting all these different colours on all these different parts, I put this liquid on the top, and then I got my cloth and went to wipe it off and wiped all the paint off underneath.
No, it acted like a thinner.
And I'm sitting there going, I've just spent 2 days doing this, and I primed it, and I sanded it, and I'd done all this thing, and then all of a sudden I'm wiping off this stuff, and everything's coming off, and it's just grey underneath, and I'm like, oh. So what I ended up having to do, I had to run out to the nearest Michael's and get like a spray paint metallic copper paint, like an enamel. Mm-hmm. And I ended up just spray painting the whole thing one colour, and then putting the antiquing thing on over the top. And it still looked pretty cool, but
right.
It wasn't as detailed as it was. And I'm just like, I'm never doing that again.
Oh no, I'm so sorry. Jessica, have you a story to share?
Goodness, dude, I'm trying to pin down one.
Which one?
That's the difficult bit.
Well, the funny thing is there's times where everyone's had those moments like Sarah where you've put all this time and energy and work, and then all of a sudden this thing happens, and you're like, plan B, while you're trying to nurse your heartbreak because you just lost how much time and love and passion into it just going away.
I think the biggest factor, and the thing that I have no control over, which is the most stressful thing, is actually when I do River and Selena Kyle, is my hair. Because I do have naturally curly hair, just not that tight and short curly hair.
Right.
And it's all dependent on the weather and everything else that goes on. And I've got it down to a pretty good science. But the thing is there's no salvaging it if it decides not to. Like, there's no fix. And I had that happen once when I was in Philadelphia, where I was at this convention and everything, and I had the hair all set, and it looked great. It was the best it had ever looked, and I was so excited to go out there. And it was one of the most humid days in Philly.
Oh, God.
And about like 10
You should be
minutes.
prepared for humidity.
I know. I was. It's a different type of humidity, though. It's like a weird, different type of humidity that's like worse. Like, I can deal with Florida humid, but like Philly humid with the streets and the it's like the car. I don't know. But
so what did you do?
I took as many bobby pins as possible and didn't take as many pictures as I would have. Yeah, that's honestly what it comes down to with that one. But the other crunch would probably be Hydroflax. I was gluing on eyebrows, I think the night before, the morning of, in the car. It's always props, though. Props are the last things to go.
Honestly, I think that's it. I think so far it's like every story I could think of, it's props. Even my own, it's like, I love cosplaying 9. It came off of me finding a jacket on Poshmark that was that was Nine's jacket, and it was for a woman. And I'm like, we're doing this. And I got the pants, and I've just had to find black jeans. Oh, that'll be simple. It's not as simple as you'd think it would be. But it was, it's a go online, find the correct the V-neck jumper, all that kind of fun stuff. I took it to San Diego. I was gonna do different cons with it. I just did Central Florida Comic Con with it. And I love this cosplay. I got out there, and where's my Sonic? Where's my Sonic? I forgot Sonic. I've searched everywhere. I tore apart bags. I tore apart everything. Could not find my Sonic. Went into the convention center, and I'm looking for a Sonic. And at this point, 13 just came out. So you see just 13 Sonic everywhere. I can't find, and it's not difficult. It's 9 and 10 Sonic. I finally find one. I spend like $28 on the Sonic, which I know I've got like 3 at home. I buy it. I'm like looking for scissors. I get the Sonic. It was in my jacket. The other Sonic, it was in my jacket pocket.
No.
I had 2 Sonics. I had it on me the entire time. Sonic and a psychic paper. I just never bothered to put my right hand in my pocket. Props.
Pockets.
Oh.
Pockets. So, last since I know we're kind of running to the very end of the show, speaking of props, Christian. What has speaking of props kind of failing us at the end, what happened to Baby Blue?
That doesn't sound right. No matter how you phrase it.
With our favorite traveling TARDIS. I remember there was a photo that she went to get, and if I remember correctly, the bottom fell out.
Oh, you're talking about the paint and the bottom? Oh, yeah. Well, when I got the TARDIS, I made sure it was a die-cast model because I knew that would be dropping the thing like left and right. I'm sure it was going to get abused, and so I said if I get a plastic one, it's going to last maybe 5 minutes before it even gets out the door. Mm-hmm. So I made sure I got this hard metal TARDIS, and over time, the paint started chipping off. If you look at year 3 and 4, you can see that the paint kept coming off. And Chrissy, God bless her, trying to do her best, my wife, she would paint the TARDIS. She got this paint from a model stop, but because it had no primer, the paint wasn't sticking, so it kept shedding and shedding. And one day she said, we're going to put primer on it. So she takes the TARDIS and scratches it all off. She scratches all the blue off. We decided that night to go to Downtown Disney. And there was a person performing. It was one of the Streetmaster people. They were in silver. And he held the TARDIS up against him. And lo and behold, I took a picture and I was like, oh my God. And if you look at the TARDIS now as back then, when it goes to Halloween Horror Nights, when you took pictures back then when it was all blue, it came out as a silhouette. Today, with the metal just being bare itself, it absorbs the light. And especially around Halloween when it's gotten all these freaky pictures. If anybody wants to go to the Legend Traveling Tardis, just check out the Halloween. I think there's like 400. The thing looks magnificent. It absorbs the light. It becomes part of the characterization around it. There's one where it's just in like this hellish red, and it's sitting with skulls, and it looks like it's in hell. It really does. So I made the decision not to paint it anymore, and it's become an icon since, and it's kind of become its own character away from being the original TARDIS. When you talk about the bottom falling out, I actually took it to SeaWorld with the Pearl Divers. And I came up with the idea. I didn't even think they would go for it. The Pearl Divers. I said, I want to can you take this down with you? I'll take a picture of it with you while you're diving for pearls. They weren't doing anything at the time. So she took it down, and I snapped pictures of her. And lo and behold, I got a picture of a woman holding it underwater. I thought it was the coolest thing. As soon as she comes out, the bottom falls out.
Props.
So I'm like, yeah. Props. So I was like, oh my God.
It's always the props.
Now I have designated this. The bottom stays at my house. It never leaves because the only thing I'm going to do with the bottom is I'm getting all the signatures of the doctors as they are possessing my TARDIS. So I've gotten 2. I've gotten Paul and I've got Sylvester signing it. And the thing was, the first doctor I took it to was Paul McGann. He signs it, and I said, Paul, just leave it. Leave enough space so that other doctors can fill in it. He takes the marker and signs practically 3/4 of the bottom.
Oh, he did that. He did that on purpose. You know he did that.
I had to go, oh, why did you do that? He goes, it's my TARDIS. I'm like,
Well, I want to quickly thank everybody for helping me out on my first try at hosting a show. And as you can see, I'm already fubbing it up. I want to thank Christian Basel from this particular show right here for coming on and allowing me to go ahead and take a hosting moment. I want to thank Jessica Womack from Swan Cosplay. And I want to thank Jessica Utting. Oh my God, I said it wrong. Jessica Utting. Check out her Facebook page, Sarah So Geeky. She can do amazing things with needle and thread, because I'm just saying it because I have a TARDIS belt and I love it and I use it for every con. So thank you once again, and thank you for coming on and listening to us ramble about cosplay on this awesome legend of the Traveling Tardis.